And welcome to Control Alt Deplete, episode 25. We're
Yep.
1/4 of the way to 100, folks.
What a rare, strange journey it's been.
Alright. So, I am here, Buckblind, your host, on the left side of the screen. And on the right side of the screen, we have Mr. Bioshock. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. We got a lot of keys in yesterday. It was nice.
Yes, we did. I think we got like 9 or 10 keys in, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's nice so far. Yeah. It's a good start to the week.
Yep. And I'd say at least six of those should have been Wormcrest. We did 3 with your parents, and then did 6 or 7 more. So yeah, no, we definitely a big start. I know I've got my chest has already got all 8 dungeons in for my druid, so that's a plus. But yeah, we'll keep hammering those out. Get some more Wormcrests tonight. Oh yeah, that's what I forgot to add to the show notes. I'll talk about my leveling guide as well at some point.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's a good night of keys last night for sure.
It's a good week for keys.
Yes, it is. And with that great segue, we are going to go into our weekly affixes this week. We have tyrannical, which is, easy, whatever. Storming, which is also easy, whatever.
So easy.
And raging, which is also easy, whatever. So back-to-back easy weeks, at least if you're a tank. Last week was easy for tanks. Maybe not so easy for DPS if you're melee. But, you guys can deal with those. You guys can deal with those spiteful ads. I'll watch.
And it's nice is that we've been playing Rogue Druid in the Mythics, and we can both get rid of the Raging buff.
Yes, that is very nice.
Soothe it, and I can shiv it.
Absolutely.
It just helps. It's not like Raging overpowered or anything. It just helps a little bit.
I will say though, it felt very weird in Brackenhide, not being the one getting rid of all the whirlwinds on the War Scourge mobs.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I've got the rage. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll take my finger off of my soothe button then. But no, it's nice. It was a nice combo. Definitely like the your sub rogue a lot. Doing some good damage too.
The damage okay.
I think you pulled what, like 115k in a free hold?
115, I think, and 120 something in the Bracken high.
Nice.
Yeah, it's decent.
So yeah, definitely a great week for pushing keys.
Yes.
Last week was excellent for fortified. But yeah, speaking of Mythic Plus, what do we have going on there?
So they're implementing, if you haven't logged in for a while and you can log in now, you'll see your tunes that are like 60 and lower have the option to get boosted gear. It's in like a character screen, I believe. I saw it from my characters, but there's Mythic Plus and PvP catch-up boxes to help you get caught up even faster. Already pretty fast now, but even faster, which is nice. It's really easy to get the PvE chest because it's just 250 flight stones. But the gear is 398. Can you upgrade that or no?
Yes, yeah, it can be upgraded to 411.
411, so you can get 411 is just your flight stone, which is nice.
Yes.
I know the PvP one. To send a PvP one, you have to be 1400 in any bracket or higher to send a crate to your tune. Now, the PvE crate's a lot easier to get than PvP because the PvE is just flight zones, you get tons of those. And the PvP one is conquest based, you have to do rated content to get those currency, send one chest, it takes a little bit longer.
Right.
But the gear is a little bit higher level, and that's just because of how it scales in PvP. But yeah, I don't know. Have you noticed that in the loading screen, your character screen, like the catch up?
I have not, but all the characters I play are probably past that point.
Oh, see, I can see right now, logging in. So yeah, it's not showing me anymore. All my tunes are like 50 for doing my my heritage armor leveling
Right.
are all not showing anymore. Because for a while there, it was showing like here, log in and get the upgraded gear and all that stuff.
Yeah, I've seen. I know they added that in. I've seen on some of my characters that I hadn't logged into in a while.
Yes.
It was like, would you like to teleport to Orgrimmar or whatever? And like if they were in random spots, it's like welcome back and
Yeah.
have different options. They put a lot of nice little features in there to try to help people that are just coming back after a long break, kind of guide them along. Like here's what you should go do. So that's great quality of life stuff. Definitely good to try to get people back in.
Yeah.
And the catch-up mechanics are definitely welcome.
Yes.
Maybe
nice.
Blizzard should consider getting some catch-up mechanics for profession knowledge. Maybe just maybe, whatever.
I think the catch-up gear should go up to 424. I don't see an issue with that. It's like it's really easy to get in Mythics. Might as well just build. Maybe not get 424, but get like a piece you can upgrade to 424.
Yeah, I think what they're going for is just to make it easy to get into Mythic Plus 2s. Because like right now, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in my gearing guide. Right now, if you hit fresh 70, you're going to be like 315, 320 item level. So the best thing to do is to go and buy auction house gear, BOEs that you can find. Most of them are like 379, somewhere in that range, which is still a little bit low for Mythic Plus. So for this, because Mythic Plus, the plus 2s off the bat, the end of dungeon plus 2s drop 402 item level gear. So people are generally, it's a hard sell. If you don't have friends, it's hard to get into groups if you're not at least 390 already. So this will make that a lot easier to get into groups, because you can just, if you have enough flight stones on a main character, you can just immediately be 390 plus pretty quickly. So I think that's the goal, is to make it easier to get into those groups. Because right now, like I said, you hit level 70, the best you can get without doing any dungeons or not is like 375 item level-ish. That's probably where you're going to end up sitting. Because you can't buy every single slot. You can only buy certain amounts of gear. Because a lot of that 379 stuff is like unique equipped trinkets. So you can only get one of the trinkets. You can't have two of them. So your other trinket might still be 310 or whatever. Rings are somewhat similar. Rings will be unique equipped. So you can only get one 379 ring. The other ring is still going to be like 315. So you can get about 370 item level, 375 just by buying on the auction house. But that's still 30 item levels lower than what people are typically looking for you to be at Mythic Plus. So this definitely, I think, is good, especially if you are doing a lot of stuff in your mains and you have a lot of flight stones left over. Excellent way to spend it. I will say, I think they should just get rid of the flight stone cap, honestly. The 2,000 cap. It hasn't been a huge issue for like you and me, because I feel like we aren't using that many flight stone, or we're upgrading gear enough that we're not really piling up too many flight stones. But for the people that are like full-time streamers and whatever, if you do, I mean, like last night we did 9 dungeons and probably got, I think it's like 30 some flight stones for that. So you're talking couple hundred, 300 flight stones a night. So if you do that in a couple of weeks, if you already got all your gear upgraded and you're running, just pushing keys as high as you can, and you do 6-7 dungeons a night, you're going to be capped out in just a couple of weeks without anything to spend them on. So that definitely is good for this, at least. But I do think maybe we should get rid of the flight stone cap, because what's the point of it being there anyway? I don't know.
So this is, I don't know if it's meant to be this way, but for PvP and PvE, the chests you can buy, you don't get it for sure items, so you might get 2 of the same items as you're unloading, so it's just random.
Gotcha. Yeah, it looks like that's the same way. Yeah, it's the same way for the Mythic Plus one. It looks like.
Yeah, so the PvP, like, you're not guaranteed the right items. Same with the PvE, like, you can get doubles, which is kind of stupid, because, like, what if you get like 3 or 4 of the same item? Like, well, you just spent like 1,000 flight stones.
Yeah. It is a little odd, but
should just make it so it's 250 per piece, and you can pick which piece you want to get.
Yeah. No, I agree with that because
that kind of sucks for catch up now if you get the same item.
No, and I know this is basically what they did with Valor beforehand, when they would put the Valor catch-up chest in. I think those were also a random piece. But yeah, I do think it'd be better to just have a guaranteed, like this is, like you said, you have to pick what piece, have a, 250 for a helm, 250 for a shoulder, 250 for that. Now, maybe you don't necessarily get the best stats or whatever, but, at least you could pick the gear you want.
Yep. Anyways.
There we go. Yes, so another thing that is happening with 10.1.7 it hasn't been put into the PTR yet, but Wowhead has data mined some dragon or some old mounts that have been changed to work with dragon riding. So it looks like what we're going to probably have. And Blizzard has made an announcement saying that they are indeed working on dragon riding outside of Dragon Isles and broadening the set of mounts that can dragon ride. The initial work can be seen on Fractures in Time game files, but the feature will not be complete or featured in the live game until later in Dragonflight. So it looks like what they're going to have it happen is you have two different options. Yeah, probably 10.2 would be my assumption. You have a flight style static, which is just typical flying. And then you have flight style dynamic, which is the dragon riding style. And it'll be a toggle that you can use to determine which way you want your mounts to work. That feature, again, won't be ready until much later. But the list of dragon riding capable mounts includes 103 new mounts. So that's a lot.
Like old school mounts?
Yes.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to that.
It looks like most of them are like the drakes, the proto drakes, the worm mounts. Let me look through here, see if I see anything else. Oh, the hawk mounts, like the fire hawk type mounts.
Oh,
a lot of those have it.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, they've got a whole list of stuff. It's a lot of the dragon style mounts have that stuff. So yeah, no, that's gonna be really, really cool. I love to see that happening. Yeah, it's pretty much any kind of like dragon, drake, or worm or hawk type mount. Looks like that's what mainly has it. At least so far. Who knows? We'll see what else they do. But yeah, no, it'd be awesome to get a lot of the old drakes and dragon looking mounts be usable with that.
Now, all the people are wondering this question. How will this impact your speed leveling? That's the question that everyone's burning to know.
So it's interesting because it's going to depend on how that toggle works. So right now, you just have typical flying. So it depends how your charges work. How are they going to do that? Since it's not available for testing yet, I can't really say 100% sure. But my guess is it's going to work just like current dragon riding does. Have the 6 charges once you're fully maxed out, blah, 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 all that stuff. So my assumption will be that, one, if it's like it is now and you have all the extra regeneration stuff, probably you'll just be doing dragon riding whenever you can start flying. The other question is what level they're going to implement it. Because right now you have like the regular slow flying is at 30. Level 40 is the faster flying. So if you can do the dynamic flying at level 30, that is going to be huge. If you can't do it until level 40, still huge, just not as huge. But yeah, no, the dynamic flying, it'll come down to how well the charges regenerate and stuff. But for the most part, you're going to want it dynamic flying if you are doing a speed run. But the thing is, like, since you have the option to toggle the switch, and I don't know if there's going to be like any kind of cooldown on it. If assuming there's no like cooldown on the toggle, then what I would expect to see is I would be using dynamic flying, and if I run out of charges, I don't know if you can swap while you're in the air. If you have to be landing, either way, you're gonna swap to the once. If you're out of charges, you're gonna swap real quick for that to the static flying and use that until you've got enough charges that you can go back to dynamic flying.
I don't see them making it so you can switch in midair.
Yeah, I agree. I think you'd have to land most likely.
Yeah, it probably take a casted like 1 or 2 second cast. Or something
Probably.
Like
But yeah, I feel like that's the direction to go. Dynamic flying's definitely going to be faster. Now, will they slow the speed of the flying down for dynamic flying? I don't know. Will they have multiple speeds?
I hope not.
Yeah, again, without it being available to test yet, it's really hard to say how it's going to affect anything.
Yeah.
But if it works as the dragon riding works, if that's how dynamic flying works, dynamic flying is going to be the way to go, 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely looking forward to see how they do with that. I love that they're putting all the old mounts that are dragons or any kind of worm. It's going to be so awesome.
I can't wait.
Can you imagine being on a Sandstorm Drake if it works with that? And and then, you know, yeah, you're on my back and I'm just dragon riding. That'd be so much fun. Actually, I don't know.
Some mounts I'm really looking forward to using, like the ice crown mounts, like those frost worms.
Oh yeah, that's in there. Yeah, there's all sorts of cool mounts in there.
There's that really cool one from Karazhan, the Ember, whatever that one was called. I forgot the name of it, but
right,
like that dragon's on fire. It's pretty cool. It's one of my favorite mounts. You know, it'll be cool though. Even better than all those is those the anniversary mount coming, the dragon. The dragon riding on that mount, that would be cool.
Yes, the that is listed as a dragon riding mount in here.
That's awesome.
I was trying to see if Sandstone Drake is on this list. Yep, it is. Oh, that's gonna be that's gonna be really fun. Yeah. Yeah, that's the first thing I'm trying out when that comes live. I am gonna pull out my Sandstone Drake. You're gonna hop on, and we're gonna see what happens.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of mounts, we have some trading post news. So, take us through that.
So, it's the Source's trading post is coming to the trading post, and by the look of it, it's going to be October because this beautiful mount is the Eve's Ghastly Rider, and it looks like a broom or like a Quidditch stick or whatever from Harry Potter.
Yep.
Or whatever. It looks really cool actually. It's got like a little like lash from the front, and I don't know. It looks pretty cool. My question is, will that mount be used as dragon riding or not?
I doubt it. I doubt that one will.
It's not really it's just a broom. Yeah, I like the amount of mounts coming out every month. It's kind of cool.
It's great.
It makes the Traveler's Log worth doing because I feel like if the rewards weren't that great, people would be like, oh, no incentive to really try and do it.
Well, and the thing is, like, I have not, other than the very first month that it came out, I have not spent a single second of time going, I need to do this to get the Traveler's Log on. I've just done our dungeons and everything, and I've gotten it every month. Yeah. Other than the 1 month that I didn't play because I was playing Elden Ring.
Yeah, I missed 1 month too, but yeah, that's very true. Like, I don't really go out of my way. For example, though, my parents have to because they don't get the mythic stuff done.
Right. Yeah.
So I know for them they do like the PvP ones, like the 5 battleground wins, 7,500 honor.
Right.
And like the Raid Finder bosses, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Although they are more than welcome to come with us in dungeon runs. I'm happy to run them through dungeons to help them get that stuff anytime. So.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I'll make sure they know.
Yep.
But yes, the broom mount is cool, and we're speculating it's going to be for the month of October.
Yeah, which it makes sense on a couple of things for it to be October. One, we already know what the
August.
August one is, so
Yeah.
we have September, which I don't think we've got any information for that yet. It is expected it's going to be the monthly reward because they said there's no traders tenders cost attached to it currently. But
What, the
also,
broom?
yes,
Yeah, I was about
um,
to say that too. Yeah.
yeah, but the theme with it being for October makes sense because it's Halloween. You get a broom,
Yeah.
so I think that makes sense. Um,
Yes.
that it would be in October, which honestly
Yeah.
it's nice because we used to have. I know there used to be, I think, a temporary
Temporary
broom
broom?
mount. Yeah,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and I was always annoyed that it was temporary. So to get a permanent one, yes.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely we'll use that on the Warlock. I feel like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
man, I miss the
Um.
days when I mained Warlock. Not gonna lie, like I mained Destruction Warlock for a while there during MOP. It was
Right.
fun back then, but
Yeah.
I had a little gnome. That was a little gnome Warlock.
I think I told you the story when I tell it for the stream, the podcast.
You're good.
So, my first character I ever made was a Tauren warrior, and I was leveling up, and week two later, so I'm leveling really slowly. I get to Crossroads, and back in the day, 2004, 2005, Alliance and Horde fought at Crossroads
Oh yeah.
in the Barrens every day, all day, always there. So, and I was on a PvP server, but in those old, I don't remember exactly if I was killed or not, but I was in the Crossroads, the Horde grouped up, the Alliance grouped up outside, there's a stalemate, nothing's going on. And I see this Night Elf jumping, and he does a flip. And I said in the chat, I said the Say chat, I was like, how do you do a flip? And the guy said, you gotta be a Night Elf. I logged out, 30 seconds later, made a Night Elf rogue, never looked back. Yeah. So I had my rogue, it was the Night Elf, and that's the rogue I play now. Not the same race anymore, but that's the same rogue.
Nice.
And my mage I made in vanilla as well. Towards the end of vanilla was a gnome mage, the same mage I have now, but a gnome. But yeah, that's my story of me becoming a Night Elf.
Nice. Now, if you want to do a flip, you just got to be a demon hunter.
Yeah.
But no, I remember making night elves too. I was actually thinking about that the other day, like a night elf, because I remember making night elves and running through Teldrassil and doing all their opening quest line stuff way back then. Yeah, it was a nice quest line.
It's a good zone.
It is.
It's a really, really good zone.
I always made a night elf druid and would level up to about level 20 and then give up on it because it was so terrible. I hated leveling up druid. I don't know why. Because now I'm literally like, my second main is my druid pretty much for the last 2 expansions. I've basically been demon hunter or druid since Legion, basically. I was demon hunter for all of Legion and BFA, and then I don't think I did much druid during BFA, but I did do a lot of druid during Shadowlands. I did definitely play my druid then, and I'm maining my druid now. I'll talk a little bit more about druid here later on during our week in WoW stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, no, good times, man, good times.
Yes.
So also, speaking of magic and Halloween and warlocks, the other spell class is mages, and we have after the launch of the patch and fire mages doing 300k DPS on dungeons
overall.
Yes, they have received some nerfs, so Bio's gonna take us through those nerfs now. And
so the 3 specs got nerfed, and from people talking about like how much of a nerf really is, fire got the worst of it. Arcane got a decent sized nerf, and Frost is a decent sized nerf as well. It's not too bad though. So for fire, they just flat out reduced all spells with 5%. So that's not like a small amount. It adds up.
Yeah, it's a 5%. It's a 5% nerf right there, not a 3% nerf for sure.
Yeah, so we have the 5% nerf. Flame Strike. The reduced chance of Flame Strike is kind of meh. The thing you want to worry about is the the AoE cap on it now. Because if they didn't have the AoE cap, the 6% nerf, no big deal. But yeah, so Flame Strike and Flame Patch are 6% nerf, and their damage reduced beyond 8 targets.
Yes.
So if you don't know, with this major rework, that Flame Strike now works with your heating up, so you can have instant Flame Strikes, and crit Flame Strikes will also contribute to heating up as well. So what people are doing, because like before this patch, fire mages would pop all their cooldowns and just do their single target and have their ignite spread and do that damage. Now they do the burst, and instead of using Pyroblast, they use Flame Strike during combustion. Because it was a lot more AoE damage that way. So yeah, they're just kind of addressing that issue. Sun King's Blessing, the one that makes sure it's Pyroblast or Flame Strike that you actually cast to deal 260% increased damage, was 275. So I mean, Fire Mage is still on a fine spot from what I've been seeing today on streams from when I was watching. Fire's still top contender right now for Mythic Plus. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I think it'll be just fine even with the nerf.
Yeah, it'll be fine for sure.
Yeah, one thing to say as far as the fire nerf, with the AoE cap, that's really only going to affect the higher level players, because a lot of low dungeons you don't usually have more than 8 or 9 targets. I mean, at best, if I see, very few tanks will pull more than 2 packs at a time anyway. So you're talking at most maybe 10 targets in there. So you're not going to see a huge reduction. The higher level keys, whenever you're on average pulling 3 packs at a time and having 15 targets or so, you're going to see a big difference with the damage reduction there. But again, on a more casual level, I don't think you're going to see that much of a difference with fire mages. You'll still see the 5% nerf across the board, of course, but as far as the AoE cap, it won't affect you as much there. But continue.
Yes. Last thing I'm going to bring up when we talk about augmentation, but so Frost Mages got the Frozen Orb reduced by 5%, Blizzard reduced by 4%, Calmstorm reduced by 5%, and Sub-Zero damage to rooted and frozen targets reduced to 5 to 10% per rank of that talent. I don't know what it was before, to be honest with you. I was thinking like 15, 20%. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not positive.
But the frost nerf really isn't that big. Your Ice Lance is still tons of damage. Comet Storm still gonna do tons. Comet Storm is not AoE capped. Its range is a little bit smaller than a Flame Strike, but yeah, Blizzard's not. I mean, Comet Storm's not AoE capped.
Nice.
Yeah, and then Arcane Barrage is increased by 3%. Resonance increased the damage per target hit by Arcane Barrage by 10%, was 12, a slight nerf. Arcane Explosion reduced by 6%, and Arcane Orb reduced by 8%. Because what the issue is with Arcane right now, before the patch went live, I was watching stuff and reading up and testing stuff. Like Arcane, the way it was working for AoE, instead of using Radiant Spark, is you would Radiant Spark, but instead of you'd be using Arcane Barrage with a chance to launch an Arcane Orb forward and to get max stacks. You just Barrage just keeps going back and forth, and the AoE damage was like insane, but it was kind of RNG. That's why people played Fire over Arcane. So Arcane's just RNG, but when Arcanes get lucky, it does a lot of damage. So they're just kind of nerfing that a little bit, which I think is needed, because you don't see too much Arcane, but it's still really good in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think Arcane really got hit too hard. Frost Mage definitely a little bit harder. Fire Mage was hit the hardest with the 5% nerf across the board. But also, again, Fire Mages were broken. They were the only class outside of Augmentation that we'll get into here in a few minutes that was just absolutely, completely broken. Augmentation is absolutely broken, but Fire Mage was also broken. Very much. So this should bring them out line, especially the AoE cap. I think will we won't see the 300k overall that we were seeing in the high keys by the top players. So that'll bring that more to check. But yeah. So also, let's go ahead and do the augmentation reaction, and then I'll go into the leveling guide. So yeah, augmentation came out. So, of course, here Bio is our resident augmentation expert. He did play it for a little bit last week. From a tank perspective, I love Augmentation Evoker. From a DPS perspective, we love Augmentation Evoker. From a healing perspective, we love Augmentation Evoker because it is super OP. The damage that it allows the rest of the group to do is great. Now, from a play style, since you were the one playing it, how did you feel from play style? How did it feel playing it?
To be honest, I did enjoy it. It was very boring, and all your damage is reliant on your teammates doing their rotation correctly. And like, I mean, it's not hard to keep a might or your shifting sands mastery. Like, it's easy to do that stuff, but it's just I don't know. Devastation was a lot more fun, and
Right.
like, you feel like you're actually doing something. Whereas augmentation, you know, like, I don't care if they fix the damage charts and like the details or not. The spec itself is just boring to play, in my personal experience. I found it to be very stale. It's very good for sure. It's definitely top 3 Mythic Plus for best class, and I'm not trying to take that away. Like, it's very good. But I don't know. I wasn't enjoying it because, like, you just pop Ebb and Might and you just use your power abilities and then you're just spamming Eruption, and it's just a little bit boring. I don't know.
Right. No, and I think for me, the thing that I think people are going to have the biggest issue with is kind of what you touched on there a little bit, is you just don't have really that much control over how much damage you account for. So when I say account for, I don't mean how much damage shows up in the damage meters. I mean how much you're buffing other people's damage by. Obviously, yes, you apply the buff and you have to, keep your abilities up to keep that buff up and extending it and get as much uptime on it as possible. But from what you had told me and we're talking about, it doesn't seem like it's that hard to play.
It's not at all.
So then it comes down to how much damage you contribute, how much you're helping your team out, comes down to how well is everyone else playing, and not you are not in control of the damage that you end up being responsible for, because if one person dies, so let's say we have a group, we're going in there, and your 2 DPS are doing 135, 140k on the pool, and the Augmentation Evoker is probably only doing about 40k. Because you do a low amount of damage on your own. You might be buffing them by 40k each, but if one of them dies, now all of a sudden you lose 140k DPS instead of the normal, you lose 80k, 85k DPS for that pool. It's much more noticeable if one of those DPS dies, because the Augmentation Evoker can't make up for that damage. So now you're only buffing one person as well. I mean, you're buffing the tank as well, but you're only getting 40k instead of getting 80k bonus damage, and you're also losing the damage that the other DPS was doing on their own. And like what you're saying, if one of the other DPS that you're buffing isn't doing their rotation properly, they're not doing well, they're not performing very well, that's going to hurt as far as on Warcraft logs. If you go back and look at the DPS, your damage is going to be a lot lower than if you had played with somebody that knew their class, knew their rotation, was performing at near perfection. So I think it's an interesting thing, because it's your damage contribution is so much based on how well other people are playing, and I feel like that's not necessarily a fun play style, because at that point it's less about your skill and more about everyone else's skill, and the it's more about their skill instead of your skill, and you're not really in control of how much you're contributing.
That's kind of why I wasn't looking forward to continuing to play it, because it just felt like, you know what, like I know I'm contributing a lot of damage, but like I'm not doing special, boring rotation, no damage, and then you just keep your bust up and watch your team do it really well, which is the intended thing of it, is to do that.
Yeah.
But playing is very different than just be like, yeah, augmentation is buffing everybody. It's like it's the best thing. It's like, yeah, it may be the best thing, but it's so boring.
Yeah. So I think if you're an augmentation evoker, if you're playing with a full group team and you play together all the time, I think you're going to enjoy it a lot more, because you can trust your teammates that they're going to do their rotation properly. You're going to trust them to be playing to their best. You're going to trust them not to be dying on stuff. But whenever you're playing with pugs, I don't think augmentation is going to be that much fun, because you don't know if that person ends up, they don't know how they're playing. They could be 440 item level, but not know how to play their class, or they don't know mechanics and they constantly are dying. That's hurting your damage. And I think that's the frustrating part, I feel like.
Yeah, if you got DPS dying left and right, your augmentation is useless.
Yes.
Useless.
Yeah, no, from a tank perspective, I notice whenever one DPS dies with the augmentation way more than without an augmentation, because it takes so much. As soon as one DPS is dead, I mean, it takes so much longer to kill everything, because augmentation is... augmentation's 20, 30k less DPS than a tank is doing. So it's not like, again, if somebody dies, that augmentation doesn't have a way to make up for it. I honestly feel like it would be nice if they had something in there that if you're in a 5-man group and you buff 4 people and one of those people dies, somehow maybe you get the increase of all those buffs that were on them or something like that for like 30 seconds or something. I don't know exactly how you would do that, but because it's noticeable if someone dies and then it's just an augmentation and 1 DPS, because then it basically feels like you just have 1 DPS there.
Yeah.
So no, I get the frustration with playing it for sure.
Yes.
They were unbelievably... Go ahead.
Go on.
No, go on. I was gonna say they were unbelievably broken. They are very, very strong. We saw last week, and they've already fixed this, but we saw a raid comp that consisted of 22 evokers and 2 unholy DKs, and the unholy DKs were doing like 15 million DPS and just melting the bosses, because apparently all the augmentation buffs stacked. So they've already put in a hot fix to address that. So now the buffs, you can't have more than 4 buffs on you at a time. Oh, absolutely. I think you're gonna see 4 augmentation evokers in a raid most likely when it comes to the next race world first. But
I hope it's the case.
I think you'll see 4 in there. Honestly, I was thinking you might see up to 4 anyway, because if you have 20 people in there and most of the buffs target 4 allies.
Yes.
So if you have 20 people in there, 4 augmentation evokers now means everybody is buffed. I was expecting maybe 2, but I think with as strong as they are, if they don't get nerfed, you're gonna see 4 anyway. Just that way, everybody is being buffed.
If it comes down to that, I bet you they nerf them if they bring 4 in the race world first. But they'll not nerf it during the race, but they'll nerf it soon after, I bet.
Possibly.
If that's the case.
But I also wonder if because to me, the obvious hotfix would have been just to nerf it so that you can't be buffed by more than 1 at a time. Because I don't see any reason why people need to be buffed by more than 1 at a time anyway. Like I honestly just don't see the point in that. That feels like that's just making it extra broken. So the fact that they nerfed it to where you can be buffed by 4 makes me think that they are looking to see they're wanting to make it where we don't see more than 4. in a raid.
Right.
That's, I think, is what they're focused. So I don't know if you'll actually see them change anything, because I think 4 augmentation is what they're wanting to kind of cap it out at. They don't want to force people to only bring 1, but they also don't want to force people to be bringing 10. So I think they're looking at, if we have 20 people in a mythic raid, then 4 would have everybody buffed, and that's, I think, what their target was. But yeah, no, I think it definitely is going to receive some kind of nerf at some point, I would imagine.
It has to.
Yeah, I mean, it's contributing a lot of damage. What I would like to see them do, though, is nerf the buffs a little bit, but then increase their own damage more. So, like, I think, to me, what makes sense is if you nerf the buffs so that the damage they're contributing with other people, it gets reduced by 10%, buff their own abilities that are just your damaging abilities by 10%. That's what I would like to see, so that you contribute, instead of being 40k DPS while everyone else is at 120k, get you guys at like 60k DPS, and then everyone else doing 100k with your buffs. That way, 1, you have a little bit more control over your own damage, and it doesn't hurt as badly when 1 person dies. Because it's a huge impact. I mean, it's very noticeable if you have augmentation and 1 of the DPS dies. It's very noticeable.
Yeah.
And then you want to take us through the top comps for Mythic Plus right now with augmentation?
Alright, yeah, you already said augmentation. Every stream I'm watching right now, it's the same thing. It's augmentation, Shadow Priest, Fire Mage, with a Holy Pally most of the time, and the Guardian Druid.
Yep.
I've seen top. There's a couple people I watched, but top mages that I've been watching play Shadow Priest, that power infusion, because the Shadow Priest, Fire Mage, power infusion is insane. With the augmentation damage, is just crazy. There's some other comps, obviously, but I feel like that is the best comp right now.
Oh, yes,
I don't know what
yes,
the
hands
best
down.
healer is. I don't know if it's Holy Pally or not, but it's Guardian, Aug, Shadow Priest, Fire Mage, Healer. It's the best comp right now.
Yeah.
That being said, there is somebody I watch that does. She's like 3400 IO. She's good Shadow Priest. She usually runs with this kind of title. He's a Fairy Warrior. So they play Shadow Priest, Fairy Warrior, Augmentation. So like you can play other things. Augmentation is gonna help out everybody, but like I think the best comp is Fire Mage, Aug, Shadow Priest.
So looking at the top timed runs right now, the first 98 timed runs are all Shadow Priest, Augmentation Evoker, and then either Fire or Frost, with the majority being Fire. There's a few Frosts in there. Just, I think, it's dungeon dependent. Certain dungeons, Frost is going to play better than Fire. But yeah, the first 98 timed keys are all Priest, Augmentation Evoker, and then Mage, either Frost or Fire. The 99th one has an enhanced Shaman instead of a Mage. That's the first time that it deviates. Also, healers are in the top 90, in the top 100. In the top 100, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 keys that did not have a Holy Pally. 3 of those are Preservation Evoker, and 1 of those was a Resto Druid. Also, from a tank perspective, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 keys in the top 100 that were not Guardian Druid. So there's a broom. Now, I will say those 6 are spread out. There's like, I think 3 of them were Demon Hunters, 1's a Prot Warrior, 1's a Blood DK, 1's a Brewmaster Monk. So the only tank not represented in the top 100 is Prot Pally, which is a total reversal from earlier this season. Prot Pally. So I was looking at this a couple days ago when I was talking to Lynch, and Prot Pally was the only tank that had not timed a plus 28. so far. So prop every other tank had timed a 28 or a 29, and Prop Pally, the highest the Prop Pally had done at the time was a 27. So
Right.
Prop Pally went from top to bottom real fast.
Yes, it did. And
Brewmaster Monk is competing with the higher tanks as long as there's an Augmentation Evoker. If you don't have an Augmentation Evoker, Brewmaster is still worse tank. So that's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, Guardian Druid right now, the meta by far, the meta is Guardian Tank, Holy Pally, Augmentation Evoker, Fire Mage, Shadow Priest. That is your meta spec, and it's for quite a while.
It's out of control. I don't think it should ever be that way. You know?
Yeah,
I'm fine with classes being strong, but you need to bring some up and maybe lower some top ones.
Yeah, well, and you're always going to see in those top levels, you're always going to see the meta. But what to me is interesting, so in the top 100, we had 99 of the keys were Augmentation, Fire Mage, Shadow Priest. As I'm going through right now, like from 100 to 200, I'm seeing deviations. There's a Warlock there, there's a Balanced Druid, there's an Enhanced Shaman. But you know what I'm not seeing? I'm not seeing the Augmentation Evoker being gone. It's still, I'm looking through, I'm trying to find what is the highest timed key that did not have an Augmentation Evoker. And I think I'm going to be looking for a while.
Right.
Yeah,
so yeah, that's is what it is. I think it's fine that they're strong.
Yes.
But they need to fix some of this because I don't know. Shadow Priest's been like this for a while now, being like guaranteed to have a plus spot for like this entire expansion.
Yeah.
Shadow Priest has been up there for like since the expansion dropped. So they've been top dog for a long time. Mage is kind of catching up, and Augmentation is wrecking everybody.
Yeah, no, Shadow Priest has definitely been in the top. I don't think Shadow Priest is having the same domination that Augmentation is right now. And Shadow Priest wasn't... Like, Shadow Priest is the top, for sure, but they're not so far apart from the rest of them. Augmentation and Fire Mage before the nerf, Fire Mage was just ridiculously OP. Augmentation is still ridiculously OP, and Shadow Priest was just regular OP. Shadow Priest has been the top, but I don't think it's that Shadow Priest is out of control. I think Augmentation is a little bit out of control. Fire Mage before the nerf was out of control. But yeah, Shadow Priest is definitely up there. I'm still looking for a non-augmentation key.
Right.
I'm 350 in right now, and every single of the top 350 has Augmentation Evoker. Here we go. There's the first one without an augmentation. 360th. It was a Fire Mage, Destro Lock, and Shadow Priest.
Jeez.
So,
where's the melee? Bring back some melee.
Yeah, I will say that has been what's been really interesting. Because Sub Rogue is the top damaging melee, and I would expect to see, even in the top three, I would expect to see Sub Rogue beating out one of these at some point. But the only one I've seen was Enhanced Shaman. That was the only melee I've seen in the top. I saw like one of them.
Yeah.
So your melee, I guess, are just your tank and your Holy Pally healer. That's your melee. Which is, it's interesting. I definitely do think there's not a ton of variation. There's a Sub Rogue finally, 368th. But yeah, I understand you're always going to have, if these three classes are at the top, you're going to see it. But what I think would be good to see is more of a, okay, so for this dungeon, these three classes are the best. For this dungeon, these three classes are the best. For this dungeon, these three classes are the best. And then you get a little bit more of a mix. But yeah, no, because there's just really not any variation. I'm almost out of the top 500, and there's just not hardly any variation at all. Oh, there's a warrior. There's a Fury Warrior, 463rd run.
What's his name?
Cheek Lord.
I have no idea who that is. I know the warriors I
There's
watch either title or crit cake.
There's an arms warrior.
Is that
Strikes
Blue or
X.
whatever?
Strikes X.
Really
Strix
good.
X. But oh, there's a Frost DK 509th representing you.
Represent.
Yeah. Yeah, no, again, I mean, there's so now like there's a little bit of deviation here and there, but we're outside the top 500 keys right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, definitely augmentation is super strong to the point that they are in all but like 3 or 4 of the top 500 keys.
That's it's so annoying.
Yeah. I mean, I personally don't mind it because I love augmentation. I'm okay if they never nerf augmentation as long as, you know, we have some augmentation with it. So it doesn't have to be you. You can play whatever you want and we'll get another augmentation. But yeah, Augmentation Evoker right now is almost instant invite.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks to like not play it at the same time because like I put so much work into gearing it as Devastation that I feel like I should take advantage of augmentation being broken, and I mean I still could. It's just,
but it goes down to what I told you leading up to the expansion and what I've told you throughout the entire expansion. Play what you're enjoying. If you aren't enjoying it, don't play it. You know that it comes down to that. That's why Prot Pally was strongest for the start of the season. And I played it a little bit, and it's not bad, but I like Vengeance and Guardian way better.
Yeah.
Now I got lucky that right now the top 2 tanks are Guardian and Vengeance, so you know that just happened to work out. But I mean, Guardian deserves it though. I will say that. You know, Prot Warrior was the best for season 1. And it's like, you know, good for them. Prot Warrior was really strong at parts of Shadowland as well. Then, you know, Prot Pally was strong. Prot Pally has had its times and stuff many times before. But Guardian Druid, outside of basically Season 2 in Shadowlands, and even then, Guardian Druid still wasn't the best. It was still, I think Prot Warrior was still the best back then. I'm not positive, or no, Blood DK. Blood DK was top tank for most of Shadowlands. But Guardian Druid has been one of the worst tanks historically for like 3 expansions now. So to see Guardian Druid get their time to shine finally is nice to see. It's well deserved, and I hope they get to stay up there for more than just half a season.
yeah, for real.
But anyway, go ahead and tell us about your week. Or actually, no, sorry, leveling guide. Yes, I forgot. I went out of order. So yeah, I spent some of this week working on a leveling guide, more tailored for us as far as our group of players to kind of help us out, but it can be applied to anybody that's just starting out. So let's run through this real quick. My recommendations. First thing you do, of course, hit level 70. So you're fresh 70. What do? You're sitting, like we said earlier, at 315, 320 item level, whatever. Right now, if it's your very first character or whatever, or if you just don't have flight stones to spend, go buy 379 item level gear on the auction house, as much of it as you can get, and get as many 379 pieces equipped as possible. That should get you to 370-ish item level. If you have some flight stones, maybe go ahead and buy, if you are missing a few pieces with the 379, buy the pieces that you're missing with the flight stone gear if you have a main, and then that way you can bolster that up and be like 380-ish. Right. Next thing I recommend is go do the Zera Cavern opening quests, because you can get a full spark very quickly through that. Away. Yeah. So if you go get your full spark, then you can use that, craft a 424 item using the work order system. You can check various sites, Wowhead, Icy Veins, or just even look on like Murloc.io and see what people are using. I would recommend crafting the piece that's going to have your strongest embellishment on it. So look that up, see what Wowhead says, because it varies by class. But I would get that crafted first, because that's a 424 item that you get basically just for doing one quick quest. So that's easy. That should have you probably 390-ish item level, I would guess. Maybe not quite that high, maybe like 385-ish or whatever. It just depends on what you were able to get. But either way, then if you have friends that are there that can help run you through higher keys, try to target 11s to 15s right off the bat if they can handle it. Basically, as high as, I mean, if they can't handle those, just go as high as you can. The goal here is to skip farming Whelpling Crest and Drake Crest. If you don't have anybody to run you through, one, reach out to me. I'll help run. I don't care. But if you don't have anyone that can help carry you, just start with whatever highest keys you can get into. It may only be 2, 3s, and 4s or whatever, but just do as high as you can. As long as you can pull, your rotation decently and hit like 85, 90% of your class's potential, you'll be fine up to like a 10. Honestly, damage-wise, I mean, I know when Lynch got his warrior's like 380 item level, and he was still able to pump 50k overall at the end of a dungeon right off the bat. So, if you can pump 50k is enough to do 10s pretty easily, honestly, especially if you have just 1 or 2 other people. Best recommendation, though, is if you don't have anybody to carry you and you're struggling in groups, just push your own key. But anyway, as soon as you, whatever level you're able to do, preferably 11s to 15s, once you get any splinters and you have enough splinters to form another spark, get another piece of gear crafted, because that's free 424 gear, very easy. If you get gear, if you have to do lower keys and you have Drake Crest and Worm Crest, go ahead and upgrade whatever you want with that. Doesn't really matter. Ultimately, though, what you're looking for is the Worm Crest to start off with. So once you're able to run 11s or higher, start running those. If you get gear between the 11 to 14 range that needs Drake Crest before you can use the Worm Crest, don't worry about upgrading it, because you're going to probably try to replace all that once you can run 15s anyway. You just want to farm those Worm Crests. You don't need to go back and get Drake Crest. The goal here is to get into 15s quick as possible and just farm Worm Crest while also getting gear that immediately can be upgraded with Worm Crest. So if you get 424 and you've got 4 Worm Crests, you can make that piece of gear 437 right away. Yeah. It's more of a personal preference, but you can use those Worm Crests to upgrade crafted gear to 437. But if you're wanting to be as efficient as possible, I don't recommend upgrading that until you have Aspect Crest, and then just go straight from the 424 to the 447 with the Aspect Crest. Also, as you're doing dungeons, if you get champion pieces of gear, don't waste your charges on veteran pieces of gear. Only champion or higher. You can turn those pieces into tier using your charges. So any other, you only want to do that up until you have 4 pieces of tier. After as soon as you have 4 pieces of tier, save all of your charges until you upgrade or until you get pieces that are hero or myth level, preferably myth level, of course. So then you want to keep farming 15s until you've got all 424 gear, or at least the gear that you need. So what we kind of figured out is once you get 15s, once you have 424 or higher and you don't have any gear that needs anything other than Worm Crest, at that point you don't have to keep doing 15s. You can go ahead and farm anywhere between 11 to 15, because at that point you're not worried about trying to get gear, you're just trying to get Worm Crest. Yeah. So you can do whatever is easy to quickly farm. You're going to need roughly, at maximum, you're going to need 80 dungeons in that range to get all the Worm Crest you'll need. However, for each piece of crafted gear you get, that you're just going to go straight to the Aspect Crest to upgrade to 437 or 447, that's 5 less dungeons you're going to need. Right now, most classes are using about 6 to 7 pieces of crafted gear. So realistically, you probably only need like 50 dungeons, probably. At that level range. So then on top of that, if you are able to do 17s, you feel comfortable getting into the 17s, go ahead and go for it. However, you don't have to do 17s, because the thing is, if you're looking for efficiency, 17s might take longer, might not even be able to time them. If you don't time it, you get 5 fragments instead of 12. So it's not, if you're not going to be able to do them just as quickly as you're doing 15s in, it's not really worth doing. It's better to just farm your Worm Crest. Because you can always turn your Aspect Crest into Worm Crest later on. But if you're going for efficiency, get his gear as quickly as possible. Time-wise, so like last night, we played for, I don't know, from like 10:30 until 6 o'clock in the morning. So 8 hours. We got 9 or 10 dungeons done. If you're doing 17s, you're probably only going to get 5 or 6 dungeons done because it takes longer to form a group. It takes longer to do the dungeon. So it's faster to do the 15s than it is to do the 17s. But if you want to do 17s, you can. The reason I say 17s and not 16s is because 17s also, that's where you start getting hero level gear. So you don't... 16s are fine if you just need Aspect Crest, but if you're looking to upgrade your gear, 16s aren't really worth it. Just you want to go with 17s because that'll give you hero level gear. 16s are still going to drop champion gear, which you can't use Aspect Crest on anyway. But yeah, so then you just want to, every time you get sparks, keep crafting your best in slot gear. Optionally, again, you can use your Worm Crest to upgrade those. But you definitely should use your Worm Crest to upgrade your champion gear as quickly as possible. Once you have a piece of gear upgraded to like 437 or whatever, you get it. Even if it's not your best in slot, upgrade it. It's more about what's going to make the biggest difference, because if you have a worst in slot weapon and you upgrade it to 437, later on you get your best in slot weapon at 424. Guess what? You can upgrade it to 437 for just half the cost of flight stones, and you don't have to use any crest on it. So item level, item level, item level. That is the key. Once you're able to get into 17s pretty easily, or once you have you've got all the Worm Crests you need, jump into 17s, farm 17s. That'll get you hero gear and Aspect Crest. So then you can get 428 gear that you can upgrade to 441. If you've got Worm Crests, you'll be able to farm those. If, say, when you get the hero level gear, you only need 3 Worm Crests to upgrade it. So if you have a piece that you never got a champion on and you're only using a veteran or whatever, then once you get your Aspect Crest, that's 1 less Worm Crest you need to farm. So that does kind of reduce the number of dungeons you need to do. Also, while you're farming 15s, because it's probably going to take a couple weeks of farming 15s, I would recommend at least get 1 16 key in for each week. That way you get a myth piece of gear in the vault. Because 15s will give you a hero piece of gear, 16s will give you a myth piece of gear. So getting 1 16 in, you get your first piece of myth gear. It's better to grab that myth gear, even if it's not best in slot, just because you can upgrade that to 447, and then boom, you get your best in slot, you upgrade it for free to 447. So it's better to try to farm 1 piece of 447 gear each week, gain myth track. But yeah, once you're able to do 17s, when you just start farming 17s, you can go higher, whatever you can handle, whatever you can quickly do. 17s are just the lowest you'll want to do at that point, because you want to make sure you're getting hero gear and Aspect Crest. At that point, no matter what, your weekly chest is going to have myth gear in all 3 slots. If you're doing 8 17s or more, you're going to have myth gear in every single slot for your weekly chest. So that's going to be good. Obviously, then you want to use your Aspect Crest. I would recommend first thing first, before you use Aspect Crest to upgrade pieces of gear, you want to save up 4 Aspect Crest and then upgrade your crafted gear to 447, because that's going to be a big jump from 424 to 447. So that's also super easy to do. So you want to use all your Aspect Crest first as upgrading your gear, the crafted gear. After that, then you want to go ahead and use your remaining Aspect Crest to upgrading a myth gear. If you need Worm Crest to upgrade hero gear, then you can do that whenever. But hopefully at that point you don't need Worm Crest. Once all of your myth gear is upgraded, if you don't have any other myth gear, then you can use Aspect Crest to upgrade hero gear. But basically, the priority is going to be crafted gear. Use your Aspect Crest for that first. Then myth upgrade any remaining Aspect Crest to myth gear. then use your Worm Crest to upgrade hero gear, and then use your Myth gear or your Aspect Crest if you only have hero gear left that needs upgraded. Use your Aspect Crest for that. But yeah, at that point, I mean, once you're like 430-ish, a little higher at 435-ish, you probably can start attempting 20s. Once you're comfortable with 20s, you just want to start doing 20s nonstop. Get 447 gear in all your chests for your vault. You're going to need a minimum of 48 Aspect Crests to be able to fully upgrade all of your gear. For each crafted item, you're going to add one more Aspect Crest out. So you're going to have a minimum. You're going to need to do 16 dungeons before you can upgrade everything with Aspect Crest. So 60 dungeons at 17s or higher will get you enough to craft everything. That number can go down, obviously, because it just depends on what kind of RNG you get with your weekly vault and stuff. If you get a 447 piece of myth gear, then guess what? You don't need to upgrade it with anything. So there's 3 Aspect Crests less that you need. Also, as far as your charges, if you get myth gear, you want to use charges on myth gear first as far as turning it into tier. Get your gear updated to that. I wouldn't necessarily do too much for changing champion into hero because it's only a 4 item level increase. I would probably save them for myth gear, but if you have enough saved up to change everything to myth gear once you get it, and you have extra charges, go ahead and use it on upgrading champion to hero gear.
Yeah.
As far as your vault goes, each week when you're gearing up, vault priority, as far as what items to pick. If you get a best in slot item that is on the myth track, that is top priority. Take that over anything else. If you don't have any best in slot options, then you want to get either a myth level tier piece or a piece that can be turned into a myth level piece that can be turned into tier. Unless you already have all 4 of your tier at myth or that piece at myth, then you don't want to take that. Then the third priority would be any myth gear that's going to be a biggest upgrades. That way you can save Aspect Crest farming. After that, if you don't have any options on the myth level, then it's basically the same thing, but just for worm crest stuff. So hero best in slot gear, hero gear that can be turned into tier unless you already have all hero or myth tier, then hero tier or hero pieces that will save you the most worm crest. After that, if you don't need any of those options, if you already got those or none of those options are available, then you want to take tokens that you can use. In my opinion, I would use them for sockets, but if you need to, you could use it for a spark to craft gear. But at this point in expansion, you should be able to get most of your sparks through just drops and stuff, because I think there's already 6 or 7, or maybe it's 8. I think this week with the reset, I think it's 8 we can get. I'm not entirely positive how far we are in, but yeah, there's tons of sparks you can get. You can also use the tokens to buy Worm Crests if you absolutely need it. You cannot use them to buy Aspect Crests, though, so I don't recommend using them to buy Crests because that's pretty farmable. Sparks only if you really have a lot of stuff to craft, but ideally I would recommend using any tokens for sockets. And I wouldn't socket anything unless it's a myth piece of gear, because then you're just wasting those tokens, I feel like.
Right. Yeah.
But yes, that is it. If anyone wants the link to my my sheet that I have for that, feel free to comment on the channel, and I can provide the link for the gearing guide. I'll be updating it as I figure out other stuff or change my mind on things, or as things come out, such as the catch-up gear. That's the word I'm looking for. The Flightstone
Right.
catch-up gear, you know, the upgrading stuff like that when they implement mechanics in. Basically, the goal of this guide is just to have a quick, all right, this is what you do to get geared as quickly as possible once you get a fresh 70. But yeah, that is the gearing guide. Again, if you want the link to it, let me know, and I can supply that in the comments. But anyway, moving on. What was your week in WoW like?
It's been pretty uneventful. Just running keys in the rogue.
Mm-hmm.
My main focus right now is to just get my rogue geared so I'm on par for other people going to next season. So I'm just putting in the work and gonna focus on one character as best I can. I just do Mythic Plus. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, nothing else.
Yep. Get any good transmog items at all this week or anything?
No, I did not.
Rip.
So, I'm looking right now. For the past couple weeks, I've just needed one cloak off the Tomb of Sargeras, and it will not drop. I have the full set except for the cloak. So that sucks. And then Taurus, I'm 2 pieces away from that, but the set's okay looking. But
Nice.
I got me and Lich did some Battle for Bizarre Lore. I got 2 pieces of gear there.
Nice.
We kind of stomped up the 4th boss, whatever it is, but yeah, I don't know. Just trying to mug stuff, with plus stuff.
Nice. Nice.
What about yourself?
I was gonna say also, I know you did some stuff for some tier 3, the stuff there. Yeah. You have to go into full detail. Maybe next podcast you can go a little more detail on how that works.
I'll learn a little bit more about it this week, and I can come back next week. But the quest line is really easy. It just takes it took me about 2 hours, I think.
Right.
And that was also me being lost at some points. But yeah, because we did it in a weird order, so when I went back to the order of them doing it, I was confused. Right. But yeah, so the quest line is easy. The only one that I think is very hard is doing that 5-minute Strathome. Like, I don't know how people do it without. I had sprint on a 1-minute cooldown, and I stealth shell striking people to teleport forward and stuff like that. And I made it by like 45 seconds, but like my 2 or 3 attempts before that, and like I was not getting it close enough. I don't know.
I don't know.
It can be hard for some classes.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But yeah, so you get the bracers when you finish. You get your first item, whatever, it's just 2 or 3 bracers.
Nice.
So I have that, but I haven't crafted it yet because it requires 70 phylactery weave or whatever it's called, and that's expensive. It's like 2,000 or 3,000 per one.
Yes. It's their 70. Gold sink.
Yeah, I'm waiting until I get more better pieces like shoulders and helmet and stuff. Right. But so the process that I'll get into more next week as well is from my understanding is you can farm these invader script zones and stuff like that as much as you want and turn them in, but like if you're just going off like the random item, you can like on the forums this guy bought about 50 of them. Like he farmed for a long time, bought about 50 of the head pieces and didn't get the tier at all, so that RNG is kind of stupid.
I know Blizz did put out a hotfix either yesterday or today that slightly increases the drop chance of those, or it's like an increase in the drop chance of the stones or something that you use. I think it's the currency. It increases the drop rate or the number that drop, so you get more of it for your farming. But I don't remember if they actually increase the drop rate of or the chance that you get the tier piece or not.
Yeah.
I know they did increase it to make it a little bit easier, but they said they didn't increase it a ton because they want it to be rare, but they did feel that it was a little too rare right now.
Yes. But, I mean, I'm going to work on it some more in my free time. But yeah, I'll touch more on it next week.
Nice. For myself, pretty much just working on the druid so far this week. Didn't get much of anything good in my vault. Kind of meh, but it is what it is. One thing I was really happy about, the Guardian Druid feels pretty fun to play. Definitely pumping a lot more damage than it was before the rework. I don't feel like it's as strong defensively, but it also just might be that I'm pushing higher keys than I was before on him.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely still can be just as tanky if I keep my Iron Fur stacks up. So the playstyle now, I spend more on my Raise than I do on my Iron Fur because I'm trying to get more damage out. But I can still pump just as many stacks of Iron Fur as I want whenever I need it. But one thing that's nice, I did hit KSM on my Druid last night, which is the first time ever that I've had KSM on multiple tunes. So that was a nice plus.
I'll be getting mine really soon. I'm like 28 points away.
Yeah, I think next, as soon as we get fortified next week, you'll be able to hit that with probably the very first dungeon we do, most likely.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. So no, we got KSM on. We'll both have KSM on multiple tunes as of next week. I've got mine now, so I'm happy about that. Yeah, I've been trying to work on professions and stuff as well. So I've been doing. Lynch showed me a really nice week order that tracks all those stuff that you can do per each week to maximize your profession knowledge. So I've been working on knocking those out. And then I also can now make the treatises on my druid, so that's a plus. So I can make a little bit of gold on that, because there's a lot of public orders out there for that. So I can do public orders. Lynch, I know, will want stuff once I get the ones that he can use. Right now I can do mining and inscription, which is just a weekly thing that people need to buy, because it gives you 1 point professional knowledge. You can only use one a week. But there's a lot of people out there looking to get them, so definitely nice to have on that. I can get a little bit of gold income from that, at least.
Yeah. So, just remember this week we have the weekly events for 4 mythic dungeons for 428 piece.
That's a good
point. I was lucky enough to get my Biss trinket on my rogue. Chromatic essence. It was awesome. Yes, go out there and get it done.
Second Biss trinket.
It shows number 1.
It's your Biss. It's the most used, but it's your Biss if everyone else is using it. It's your second Biss if you're the only one using it.
That's all good.
But yeah. And also your Biss with if you're the only person using that trinket, then your Biss is the trinket from the last boss. So I mean, good luck.
The Beyond one?
Yeah, Beacon the Beyond I think is your second Biss.
Yeah,
as far as on Blood Mallet goes, it's like the third most used for you, I think. But as far as on Blood Mallet, the Sims for a 5-target cleave, Beacon of the Beyond is the second highest. The highest is the
bomb thing.
No, the ominous one that you've got. The one that you've got is that's the highest if all 5 party members are using it. If not all 5 are using it, then that's the second highest, or that becomes the second highest.
Okay.
But no, yeah, it's definitely a very strong trinket for you.
Yeah.
And I know Lynch wants that trinket too, so that might help you out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that is just about it.
Yep.
If you want to hit us up on our socials, you can catch me streaming at twitch.tv/Buckblind, kick.com/Buckblind. You can catch me on YouTube, Buckblind the Demon Hunter, or on Twitter at BuckblindDH. Bio, what are yours?
My Twitch and YouTube are QQ_Bioshock. And I've been trying to stream more, but yeah.
Yep. But yeah, feel free to hit us up on there. Comment on anything you want on the YouTube page, whatever, with the video. Any comments, questions, concerns you have, feel free to hit us up and let us know. If you ever want to run dungeons, let us know. So with that, we will say good night, and we will see you all next week.
See ya.